There's a pervasive thought that some people have that goes, cars just aren't made like they used to be. Well, that's true, and thank flippity flop, because have you seen the crash test footage of the modern car versus the car from the 1950s? It's nutty. I mean, yeah, the modern car gets all messed up, but the old car and its driver just die. Like forever did. Like that steering column just wants to go right through the driver like it needs to and must to. Yes, modern cars are more complex, but they're safer and they're more reliable. Remember back in the day when gas stations often had a mechanic on site? Well, there's just no need for that sort of thing anymore because reliability has increased that much. But vehicle safety? Ooh, look at this graph. Vehicle deaths continue to decrease per capita, and, well, that's a pretty good thing. But why? Because, unsurprisingly, vehicles are safer. Now, you already know the big picture that cars have airbags and seatbelts, but let's get a bit closer and look at some of the hidden vehicle safety aspects you've probably never heard of. This is the smaller picture. Alrighty, let's start at the front of the car, and I'm noticing that I spelled front as font in the script, and that is going to be an entirely different episode. Anyways, we're going to have to cover a little bit of terminology first. That is not technically a bumper, that is the bumper cover. What does the real brunt of the bumping sits behind it. So you've got an energy absorber, which sits on top of, in front of, attached to an impact bar, and then all those things combined together is called the bumper assembly. This is what happens when the bumper cover gets bonked a bit. And this is quite more than just a bit. So what people often call a fender bender is more of a bumper buster or grill destroyer. While it's not much of a secret, it's something that isn't really thought about. The fenders protect the tires and wheels because you kind of need them in general. And, when you're feeling generous and have decided that a small rock donation to the person behind you on the highway is needed, the fenders are there to tell you,
no, not this time.
These are fenders. They're at the front of the vehicle in almost all cases, unless, of course, you've got a, dedicated work truck or a heavy truck or one of those neat, really old ones. Also, there's no reason to say rear quarter panel. That's where they live on 99.999% of all cars. That's like saying front hood or rear trunk. And don't even get me started on rear-engined vehicles. They're not real. They don't exist. You've been lied to. Anyways, that energy absorber is almost always expanded polystyrene, which isn't meant to do anything except cushion a little bit of the impact and maybe help out the legs of the people walking around that you're running over. Oh, no. It's the big stankin' bar behind it where Mama gets her milk. The impact bar, also called the reinforcement bar or rebar, has a number of purposes, with number one being it's meant to absorb impact. Shocker, it's kind of in the name. And it does that by using the impact energy it's getting for crumpling or bending itself. Number two, it's meant to help keep whatever is doing the impacting from directly hitting the condenser, the radiator support, or the lower rails. Now, those impact bars are either made from some flavor of high-strength steel or an aluminum alloy. Ooh, high-strength steel, you say? Yes, little Timmy, that refers to steel that is very strong. Real flippin' strong, like power lifter strong, except not at all like that because unlike power lifters and normal people, high-strength steels don't feel anything when you show them adorable animals like these. Or these. You see, in a very non-technical sense, high-strength steels are meant to not change their shape when a heck of a lot of force is applied to them. Like in a car wreck. There are different flavors of high-strength steels. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to do another Nickelback joke, but look at this graph. This graph has circles comparing elongation percentage and tensile strength of different steels. Now look at this graph. This one has dots. This graph has a banana. Now, can I explain these graphs in full detail? Heck no. Now, when there's a car that's saying, "Notice me, senpai," and slams right into the side of your car, those high-strength steels are the first step in keeping that other car out of your interior crocodile alligator, because your doors have an intrusion beam that is usually made of some flavor of ultra-high-strength steel or advanced high-strength steel. Side note, they're the same thing, just different names. Here's an intrusion beam in a door with the door skin cut away. And here's an illustration, and here's a demonstration piece. See those little dots along it? Those are dollops of expanding foam that are meant to keep the door skin from vibrating with the wind and buzzing on the intrusion beam while you're driving. Neat. By the way, when an ultra high strength steel part is damaged, repair is a no-no. Don't. If your door's intrusion beam is hit hard, even if it's not bent, it's time to replace the whole door. Yes, yes, the whole dang door, because that beam is not available separately. Look, stamping and hydroforming steel to create all those neat shapes that you see for panels and parts in your vehicle it's pretty dang rad, but vehicle impact stamping of a door skin is not an appropriate method. If the hit is hard enough to wrap metal around a safety component, even just a little, then that safety component is now affected enough for replacement. Don't risk it. Since we're talking about doors, let's take a look at protection for the middle of the vehicle. Not the inner middle, the outer middle. These things, the pillars. Now, just like when your mom keeps calling you by your sibling's name, the pillars are upset that you keep calling them by the wrong name too. This is the hinge pillar, of which the windshield pillar is a part of. This is the center pillar, and this is the lock pillar. Hinge pillar, because that's where the door hinges are. Lock pillar, because that's where the door latch locks. And center pillar, because it's politically in the middle of things. Not visible on the diagram is the neutral pillar, which tells its wife hello right before the crash. Pillars have a multi-layer construction with an outer skin, a center reinforcement, typically made of one of those flavors of high-strength steel from that graph earlier, and often an inner panel. Now, just like other sandwiches, the meat is in the middle. Also, a hot dog is not a sandwich, it's a taco, but only if both halves of the bun are still connected. Don't blame me, folks, blame the science. Anyways, this is what we in the industry call a roof. Now, what if a tree decides to do a targeted strike to your vehicle's roof? Well, if the tree is shooting at the roof, then you've probably got no chance. But what if the tree decides to do a body slam from the top rope? You probably also have no chance, but there's at least more protection for you if that does happen. The outer layer of your roof is basically, and we're going to simplify it just to, make things a little bit nicer. It's basically just sheet steel in a pretty shape. Yep. Now, on each side of your roof are the roof rails. They are, like you've probably guessed by now, I hope, multi-layered and include high-strength steel as part of that layering. Yes, there are usually ribs that go across from each roof rail to support the roof a bit, but those things aren't going to stop the hurt when this happens. Or when this happens. Or this. What saved all of these vehicles from being flattened were those roof rails, not the little ribs. Now I hear you asking, but what if, instead of angering the trees, you have angered Zeus? Well, then yes, that roof is absolutely going to help keep you safe. This is what it looks like when a lightning bolt hits a vehicle. The occupants of the vehicle were just fine since the electricity was diverted all around them, but essentially all of the car's electronics were done for. Just done. Gone. Destroyed. Enough talking about the magical angry pixies of electricity. When a vehicle gets smacked, or when it slamma-jammas into a pole or something, those pesky smart automotive engineers have made it so that the energy of the impact either gets absorbed or is spread out along the car. Aha! Crumple zones, which are the opposite of fun like at Discovery Zone, and they are meant to squish and deform to absorb energy. Kind of like a lot of things, it's in the name. Have you ever seen a car's hood that looks like it is folded up a bit, like this? Yep, crumple zone. Actually, that's more than just one crumple zone. Anyways, Also, if a crumple zone is affected, then that part needs to be replaced. They are one-time crumplers. But what if crumpling is danger? Well, your vehicle's structure, especially for the cabin, is designed to direct the energy along certain paths so that it's spread out instead of absorbed. If your car rolls over, you don't want the pillars and roof rails to be crumple zones. That's a bad time and is generally not recommended. Crumple zones are primarily located in the front of the vehicle, but trunk lids have them as well. Suspension components do not have crumple zones. Your tie rods aren't exactly ever meant to bend. Not surprising. Also, you don't really want your hood or trunk lid to get hit and then continue straight into the cabin towards the necks and the heads of the people inside that you actually care about, even the ones that you don't care about. And if you do want that, stop wanting that. So, we've talked almost entirely about metal stuff today, though there are a fair number of other safety aspects or devices of your vehicle that you probably don't know about. But we're going to have to save those for another time. The whole process of repairing a vehicle after a crash is rarely a fun experience, but thanks to those darn pesky smart engineers, you can at least be around to participate in it. And don't forget, 50 years ago, you would have been this dummy.